Welcome, guys, to Eat, Read, Sleep. This is Kalina.
And I'm Tapis.
And we are here to talk to you today about The Perfect Day to Boss Up, written by Rick Ross. So we're super excited to have you here today. We also have a really exciting new format for you, inspired by the boss himself. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. So this week, we are going to give you a really brief, quick summary about the book because we have a really good full summary in the episode that we released yesterday. Click on the link below there and get the full book if you haven't already read it. And then today, we're really just going to discuss and kind of bounce back our thoughts about this book. And we really just wanted to invite you guys in as a community and sit on this nice orange couch with us and have a discussion. So if you have any comments, any questions, anything you want to include, please jot it down in the comments below, and then we can either respond back to you guys right away and make sure that this is a conversation amongst all of us.
Yeah, and like the boss recommended, this we're changing things up because it's new and exciting.
Yeah, gotta stay fluid, like Ricky Ross says.
Yes. First, before we get into the discussion, I do want to go through how and why Rick Ross wrote this book. Mm-hmm. And then I want to get into the 18 chapters.
All right. I'm going to say, why don't we kick this off with something a little more fun? Because if you can kind of see right here, we've got Luc Belaire. So this is Rick Ross's champagne, the rosé in his famous black bottle with the hot pink. And we figured this would be a great way to kind of open this and toast to his book, to Mr. Rosé himself, but also to celebrate a little bit from Eat, Read, Sleep.
Yes.
So really want to thank you guys for the past 2 months. Since we've launched Eat, Read, Sleep, we have surpassed some of the milestones that we have set for ourselves. So in terms of IG followers and even YouTube subscribers, it's been so amazing. And even more so than that is just some of the, the feedback and the comments that you guys have sent to us, either individually or through our Instagram page. It's just been really, really cool to see that you guys are going through this journey with us. So we really want to thank you for that. And we really just want to just toast real quick to Ricky Ross, to Eat, Read, Sleep, and to all of you guys. All right, so let's do it.
Right.
Ooh, that sounded really nice. All right, so it's a sparkling rosé, and for those of you who do not know, it's essentially the same thing as champagne. The only reason it's called champagne versus sparkling wine is champagne is from the region of Champagne in France. But otherwise, if it's manufactured anywhere else, same grapes, it's called sparkling wine.
Hey, look at that. We talk about books and about wine.
Oh.
Who would knew? We had a wine connoisseur.
Yes.
Love it.
We're so broad spectrum.
Yes.
All right, you guys. So cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers to you, Tapis.
Cheers.
Oh.
I feel like a boss already.
Oh, yes. Oh, I really like this. Okay, you go while I drink.
Okay, so Rick Ross, why did he write this book? He got the inspiration for the book during 2020 when what he calls the fungus among us happened.
Fungus is among us.
He was at home in his really palatial estate in Georgia.
234 acres to be exact.
Wow. And it's the biggest pool in the entire country, something like that, right?
The biggest residential pool in the U.S.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there and he's just kind of self-reflecting on everything that's happening around the world, around him.
Like a boss.
And his people, and as a boss does. And so he had that was his inspiration to go and write this book. And this happens after his memoir that was a New York Times bestseller as well. So,
yeah. I think that's really cool because when 2020 came, right, it was kind of really a shutdown time for a lot of people in the U.S. and around the world, actually. And instead of taking this time and having Rick Ross say, like, oh, I need to take this time to rest, or I've been working really hard, this is just time for me to chill, he was like, no, let me take this time. What else can I do in this time? While everyone's quiet and laying low, I'm going to boss it up even more. Legit, he came up with this book. Right. He's got this champagne, boss.
And when you guys read the book, you'll realize that he does have the same mentality, right? Like he's not gonna sit down and just let it all go by. He's not gonna just wait until it ends. The whole fungus among us ends. He's gonna be there to make sure he self-reflects and also gets his message out there. So I love that because you can tell that he's very inspired by what's going on, and the book really reflects that too.
Absolutely. So the book, he's got 18 chapters. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not, and it's very straightforward and to the point. So I would definitely recommend picking this book up and reading it. But I want to kind of go through the chapters real quick for you guys. We're not going to go through the chapters. Again, if you want to get the information, it's in the summary. Go ahead and clink, clink,
Clink.
clink. That link below right there. But I'm going to read through it just so you can kind of get a gist of the message of the book, and then we'll go through some questions. So first is The Fungus Was Among Us, and that's where this whole book came about. Chapter 1 is Determining Your Destination. Chapter 2, The Game Ain't Based on Sympathy. Chapter 3, Every Boss Started Out a Worker. Chapter 4, Empires Are Built Brick by Brick. I really like that chapter. Chapter 5, Don't Waste Your Time. Chapter 6, Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. Chapter 7, Stack Your Paper. Chapter 8, War Ready. Chapter 9, Your Hustle Determines Your Salary. Chapter 10, Manage the Emotions. So check your emotions. Chapter 11 is Your Bedroom is Your Office. And that's not what you guys think it is. Naughty, naughty guys right there. Chapter 12, Bosses Stay Students. Chapter 13, Speak It Into Existence. This one's my absolute favorite because it's totally manifestation. Because you guys know I'm frou-frou like that. Chapter 14, Let Your Actions Speak For You. Chapter 15, Hustle Your Own Way. Chapter 16, Never Lay Your Jesus Piece Face Down. 17, The Art of the L. And chapter 18, You Can Always Dig Deeper. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, click on our link for the summary.
But let's talk about what we're doing different this time versus our usual discussion.
Okay,
So what is this cube we got here?
Trying to make things a little exciting over here. So we've got a little dice, and on each side of the dice are questions, and we're just going to throw it at each other, and wherever our thumb lands on, we're going to answer that question. So this is non-scripted, it's not practice or rehearse, and we're just going to give it our all.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will throw it to you. You pick it up.
If I
Ready?
can catch it. Ready?
Here.
All right, so I'm going to go my right hand. Who would you suggest this book to? You know what? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think what's really cool about this book is that a lot of the concepts are very similar to what we have already gone over in our previous books. But what I really love about self-help and motivational leadership books in general is that a lot of the base messages are very much the same. You just have to find that book that really connects to you. So, I mean, the first person that I would suggest this book to is my husband. He's like a huge Rick Ross fan. We went to a Rick Ross concert in 2015. It was the best time. Rick Ross, your concerts are amazing. You know, I think anyone who's a music aficionado, someone that really looks at, that needs more than just a step-by-step how to, but someone that actually went through it, right? Like Rick Ross, I think that's what differentiates this book from a lot of the self-help books is that he actually lived this. He went through it, and he actually is speaking living proof that these commandments, the boss commandments that he has, actually work.
Yeah.
So anyone that is like, hey, I need more than just steps 1, 2, 3. I need to know that it's real, someone that's really connected to music. If you have ever seen Rick Ross during an interview, I would, you know, he's very intelligent. How he speaks, you can tell the way that he thinks. He really is a boss. He puts a lot of thought into what he says, and it's very purposeful.
All right.
Okay, ready?
All right,
Your
I'm ready.
turn. One. How about you take a sip first? We got to even it out of there. All right.
No, I can't catch it.
1, 2, where I can't throw.
What surprised you? Kind of like what Colleen was saying earlier. This book does a really good job of kind of combining a lot of things that we've seen and we've read in the past. What I like was his story. I think he has a lot of real world stories. I mean, he names a lot of rappers in there. He talks about his businesses, which he has millions of them. So I didn't, going into it, I only
Check
knew...
out the summary. I almost fainted listing all of this.
Yes, yeah. And, going into the book, I only knew Rick Ross as the rapper, right? One of the great rappers in our industry today. And I didn't know the business side of it.
Yeah.
And I always thought the whole boss thing was like a persona he put on. Because a lot of rappers have a persona or they have an alter ego, but he really is the boss. And that's what surprised me the most, because you can see his dedication to his businesses. Right? He talked about Wingstop. He has a lot of Wingstops that are open, but
25,
he's 25,
30,
right?
Yeah.
and he's still learning how to operate those. He's still opening new ones, but it's still a learning thing, which a lot of bosses have that mentality. So that was really cool to see, because I didn't know the other business side of Rick Ross at all. I always just thought, okay, he's a cool rapper. I like his music. But seeing how he talks about his business and his learnings from those businesses were amazing. I was just like, wow.
He's very smart, because the other, for me at least, what surprised me was how open and vulnerable he is to learning from other people and saying, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to take that and not steal that idea, but kind of borrow it and make it my way so that I can have my own path. And I feel like you don't really see a lot of people do that, because a lot of people, I feel like personally, would be more like, hey, that's their idea. I'm not gonna follow that, like, and kind of put that idea down. But Rick Ross is always like, what's a good idea? How can I go after that and like do the same thing? So he mentions Jay-Z, Hova, and he says that, like, hey, Jay-Z knew when he was at the top, and then after that he kind of shifted over to entrepreneurship, and so that's what Rick Ross kind of emulated as well. So Rick Ross even referenced in the book, hey, you know, these days people are looking for younger rappers. They're not going to go and look for my catalog. That they're looking for people that they can connect with. And the cool thing is, he's not mad about it, right? Like, he knows it, and he's like, all right, where do I go next? What's my next game? And then he says, okay, this is what Hova's doing. This is what I'm going to do as well. And so it's just really cool, because the I believe the owner of Luc Belaire is also the same owner as Ace of Spades, which is Jay-Z's line of champagne. And so it's just very cool, because overall Rick Ross has this like win-win mentality. Like, everyone can win and everyone can share in the wealth.
Yeah, and then also how he builds his team up too, right? So he's all about making sure not just that he's eating and winning, is his entire team is there too. So like he said, you know, as sometimes it sucks when you have high caliber people in your team that end up, you know, going on their own path. But he's like, that's what they're here for, right? He wants to make them and their lives better. And so he's like, whatever it takes to get you to your spot. And he's never about, oh, I need to be the best. I need to be the boss. Nobody else can. He's like, I want everybody to do well, especially my circle, which is amazing.
I really got that presence about him as I was reading the book, right? Like, he was like throwing out wins to everyone. Like, as whoever he could, he would give them shout outs every opportunity. And he doesn't even say that in the book as well, where if you're up and coming, he shouts out his home address and he's like, hey, send me something and I will freaking like support you. Even if I don't like it, I'll at least post it or shout you out, because I respect the hustle. And I think that's just so cool and so respectful.
All right, you ready for your part?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, and go.
All right. Least favorite part of the book.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Ricky Rose, don't come after me. It's a question I have to answer. Okay. This is gonna so if you guys don't know, we are both pharmacists, healthcare providers, and so I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Okay, so there's nothing about this book that I would say like, oh my gosh, but because the cube is making me answer, I will say, to nitpick, just the chapter, the introduction, where it's the fungus is among us, because as healthcare providers, we know that it's not a fungus. So it's more of a technical thing.
Right.
But I understand the iteration and the rhyming, and that's what makes sense. But I would say that's the only thing.
That's the only thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing. I agree. That's the only thing that kind of stood out to me now. I was like, when I read that, I was
right?
like,
Were you like,
like,
it's not a fungus?
Like, but then, like, at the same time, you can't say virus because there's nothing wrong with virus. So
virus.
Virus is trying us. No,
yeah.
See, I can't
this
do it.
is why we don't.
This is why we
stick
stick to pharmacy and reading books. You know, we leave the rapping to the boss,
to the pros. All right, here we go.
Nope. Did your perspective change? Yes.
Okay.
Again, kind of going back to my old answer, right? I didn't know that the entire persona he has, and also the ownership he has around his team, around people around him, and then also around his businesses, right? Another part that really kind of sit in with me a little bit was when he talked about towards the end of the book about self-manifestation.
Oh, yes.
And of course about, continuing, kind of having the realization, like, he's had a lot of health problems. And even after all the hustle, I think at the end of the book, he says, hustle responsibly, right? It's not about just continually push
until you're burnt out.
Till you're burnt out, to your own judgment. It's like, go at your own pace.
Yes, I
continue
love that.
to learn, right? Do not just try to take over the world and then sacrifice your health. I think he said he did admit he did have those moments where he was in hospital and all that kind of stuff, and he did get the fungus one time as well. I think that was really cool to see, because you don't see a lot of people, especially in the rap game, you don't see a lot of people open up like that. Right? Everyone wants to act tough. Everyone wants to. So I love that about him, because he is setting a good role model. Again, I came walking away from this book. It wasn't just a fun book to read. I thought it was very fun to read.
It was hilarious.
It was
like,
hilarious.
He's so real, and some of the things you say.
Yeah.
Just like bust up laughing, because I wish I was just like sitting next to him and having him tell me these stories, because it was very enjoyable.
And you know, as I'm reading it, he also has a lot of quotes from his songs, and there's some songs I haven't heard, so I'm reading the quote in my head, and then like when I actually hear the song, I'm like, that's nowhere near how I read it. Like, I sound way more nerdier listening to it. So there's a blur of that in the summary as well. But I was just like, oh, what's wrong with me? I enjoy listening to his catalog more, but at the same time, I respect the hell out of this man. I think he personifies who his message is. So it's not just a fakeness about him. He lived everything. He owns up to everything. He understands his mistakes. Yeah. And I think he made this book to help others as well. So that's why I personally took away it. It did change my perspective, because again, I went in there just thinking he's going to talk about his Bentleys and all that kind of stuff. But then you walk away, there's a whole other part of him.
And the cool thing is he does, right? He talks about his cars. He talks about how extravagant he spends, but it's because he has the resources, right? He's not creating liabilities. He's very thoughtful with how he spends his money and how he makes his investments. He says, I never buy anything that I can't afford twice to buy. Even when, do you remember that part in the book where he said when he made his first million, he didn't even spend a penny of it. He could have gone out, but he just saved it and then just kept hustling as if the money wasn't there. And to me, I feel like that's very rare. I think a lot of the sad sob stories that you hear is people make a lot of money and then they end up swindling it so quickly that they end up losing everything. And so, you know, At Rich Forever makes absolute sense. He's rich, but it's because he's very smart with his money. He is more responsible than not. And,
you know, he also said at the beginning of the book, you know, bosses learn from other people's mistakes. So he's seen people around him, other rappers in the game that have lost money, right? And he's like, no, I'm going to make sure I set up an empire. And so even though my rapping is no longer there, like, you know, Jay-Z is a good example, right? He said, people don't talk about Jay-Z as a rapper anymore. They talk about Jay-Z as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. It's like, that's the next step, right? After Drake is done, there'll be some other rapper. So rapping will always change. The rappers will always change. But the business and the empire will stay the same if you have a good foundation, which he does.
Absolutely. And now he has, along the way, he's built such a great team with him and a whole group of talent through Maybach Music Group that, you know, now his legend and his legacy lives on without him actually having to be the main person that's rapping. So all of his proteges and everyone that he's worked with will now still allow him to express himself through art, but he can also still move forward and do other business ventures.
This was fun.
I like it. I hope you guys are liking this. It makes us talk about different parts of the book that we probably wouldn't have if we went through it. I just want to go back real quick. You mentioned something and it came to my mind. I really liked in the book where he said there is no timeline, right? And he says people who put timelines on their success where they say like, oh, within 3 years I have to do this, or by this time I'm going to do this. He's like, what the heck? Smash that hourglass. You don't need it. There is no time. The very second you put time on something, you are already being negative and shutting yourself down because you're giving yourself a deadline that you shouldn't. You don't know what's going to happen. So just go at it and enjoy the process and the journey.
I agree.
I love.
I mean, I find myself doing that, especially with Eat, Read, Sleep, right?
Yeah, I find you reminding me of that all the time.
It's like, you know, there are moments where like, we should have a bigger channel. I always feel like we should have a even bigger audience. But I'm just like, this is the process. We're learning. We're getting better,
brick by brick.
You know, and you know, we had a video on IG about where we started and where we're at now within the last 2 months. Right, it's changed significantly. So again, the boss says everything takes time. Everything goes at their own pace. You just gotta be ready for it. All right. So before we end this one, I do want to make sure we have 2 of our own personal takeaways. I know we have our little
I assigned homework to Tapas.
Yes, we had homework. She gave me homework, guys. As you can see, I wrote a bunch of scribble. I probably won't be able to read it. It's a lot not as nice as hers.
Okay.
Damn it.
All right. So my first question to you is, what was your favorite quote or lyric in this book? Like, were you able to pull out anything?
Yes. So there was a chapter 12, which is Bosses Stay Students. And this is the chapter where he talks about when he met Kanye. And this is like post Kanye kind of going, crazy, political, a little erratic with his behavior. All right, so there's a quote in the book that I really love, which is from chapter 12, and it's called "Avoid Complacency." The moment you start thinking you've got the game all figured out, you set a ceiling for yourself. If you maintain a beginner's mindset, then you're always learning. So I like that quote a lot because there are, he talked about himself, right? There are moments where we're wanting to think, okay, if we get to point X, this is the maximum, this is the best we can do, right? He had all these wing stops that he opened up. He's like, I've opened up 25. This is a lot. I'm set for life. But he's like, no, I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. I want to keep improving. So he talks about like, hey, this is where we need to make sure that we're continuing to build and continuing to learn as we go along. And if we have that beginner's mindset at all times, even though we're experienced at it, we're going to keep improving. So that was something that quote and that chapter really hit home with me, because I was just like, wow, that was pretty cool. Like to see that he's still, even after having this huge empire, he's still very much a beginner. He's still learning. Yep. And, it kind of helps me kind of get motivated too. So how about yours? Any quote or any?
Yeah, so this is towards the end of the book. I believe this is the last chapter, and it's actually a lyric from one of his songs, Shot to the Heart. And it's, determined to be the best, not looking back at regrets. How many people you bless is how you measure success. And this was really, it just kind of like made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, even though I know it's a rap song and it shouldn't make me feel like warm and fuzzy. Like I should be like, yeah. But it's because we've been putting a lot of our energy and our soul into Eat, Read, Sleep, and we sit a lot and we talk about our purpose and our just cause as to why we are doing this, right? Yes. And, we talk about how it's not about the money, it's not about anything. Like if we just have people say, hey, I started reading because of you guys, or I haven't picked up a book in so long, but because of you guys, I'm inspired to do so. And if they can just get something out of this, it's all worth it. Yeah. And so that to me is like, how many people you bless is how you measure success. And it's not necessarily that we are blessing them, but it's like, can we impact them and help people see that it's very important to spend time in self-development, reading books, reading things that can help you manifest your dreams and what you want to go after, and just help be happy and be your authentic self. And so that I connected with that a lot.
The next one, and actually this is the chapter where you talked about Kanye. I was wrong in the previous one.
Okay. This
is the Kanye chapter, and this is Hustle Your Own Way. Okay. So this chapter kind of stood out to me because he meets Kanye. He's very erratic. He already had some kind of not so great impressions after he had his whole political stance with the president and all that kind of stuff. And so Ross walks in. He's just like, but he wants to work with Kanye. He wants to make it work out.
I think that's very cool because he's like, this is my homie from back in the day, and I'm going to be here to support him no matter what.
Right, no matter what, right. And towards the end, in the chapter, he talks about like, he sees what Kanye's game is all about, which is about getting attention. So he says a lot of erratic things. He does a lot of erratic things on Twitter, on wherever you need to go. At that time, he was married to Kris Kardashian, Kim Kardashian.
Same thing, right? She owns the empire.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's married to Kim, and he starts calling her Nelson Mandela, just like putting her down on that kind of stuff. And he's just like, that's not the game that I want to play, right? He's like, you gotta make the game, and you gotta play the game that you want to play it. You could go off the path and do all these things that Kanye does, but then that's not being true and authentic to yourself. Yeah. So like that was pretty cool to see, because like that's not who I am. That's not what I'm going to be about. I'm going to do the game that I need to do. And he also says that he said the reader, you should also do the same thing. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
I laughed so hard during this chapter when Ross has that bright light go on, and he's like, oh shit, like this is Kanye's game. Like an ugly ass foam slides, these ugly clothes, like all of this, it's all to get attention. But just like how he writes it, it just cracks me up. Like like, he's just so real. It's hilarious.
But then he ends the chapter, ends the meeting saying, "Hey, I'll need some of those slides."
Yes, like, he and that's so smart. Right? Like, Yes.
That's also take a lot.
You know what? That's the other thing that I really respect about Rick Ross is that he's very kind and clear with his message, right? He will straight up be like, okay, I'm not putting down anyone. I'm not putting down my homie. I'm just telling you in this particular situation, this is where this person did not go right.
Yep.
Right? So he's just sharing stories and he's not afraid to hide behind, to hurt someone else's feelings because it's true, right?
Brene Brown, kind is clear.
That's right.
All right.
We've got a discussion and summary on that as well, you guys, if you want to click on that. Okay, so it sounds like for you, your two favorite chapters was
12 and 15.
Okay, and what were those again?
12 was Bosses Stay Student, and 13 is Hustle Your Own Way.
I like those. All right, so my two chapters are chapter 6, Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, and chapter 13, Speak It into Existence. So real quick for chapter 6, Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, I love this so much because I just love and appreciate how much he just built up his team. Like throughout the whole book, you can just see he just shout out to everyone and he truly cares about helping everyone win. If someone else wins, he wins too. And he has that total win-win mentality that we read in Stephen Covey's book, right? That whole really supportive mentality that Rick Ross has that I don't know. I don't know that I didn't expect it from him, but I was pleasantly surprised to feel that theme was reiterated throughout, right? It was very authentic. It wasn't just in this one part and he talked about it just to say he had to talk about it. It's truly who he is. He embodies that. So
yeah, and in the top two people in his crew are who? His manager and his second manager is his mom and his sister.
Oh yes, that's right. The two women in his life.
The two women in his life, and so he says that he also has a team where they care about him. It's he's had people in his life in the past where he's like. They would just give me away for whatever. They just want to make a quick buck out of me. But I built the people around me that truly care about not just what I'm about, but also my organization. So he said my mom and my sister are my top two people in my entire chain, and that's amazing because you can tell those two people obviously care a lot.
Yeah, your network affects your net worth.
Yes.
And then chapter 13, Speak It into Existence, because I am all about manifestation. And I just thought this was so cool. I don't know why, not that I doubted him, but just to hear how he was already repping Belaire, even before he was signed with them, even before he was an official promoter, he was like, I'm going to do everything I can because I believe in this. He sees it, goes after it, he does it, and then he turns it into reality. And so, I just think that's so cool. Yeah. That's he's like, I was rapping about stuff that I've never even seen or experienced, but he put it down into words and made it come true. The
cool thing, especially the backstory in the rosé, was that the owner actually had him wait almost a year, right? Yeah. So he said, I want to do this. The owner's like, yeah, we'll do it. And he kind of made him wait because it gave him time to really know, is Rick Ross really fully bought into what I'm about? And it also made Rick Ross understand that I'm not just walking into a business venture quickly. Yeah. He really had his passion around it. Yeah. So now he's really
And the cool thing was that Ross wasn't offended by it.
No.
Right? He was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not ready for this, or I'm not the right person right now. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm going to prove that I am the right person for this, right? There's a couple of other stories in there where he was, when Reebok canceled their affiliation together because of his song, You Don't Even Know It. And Rick Ross apologized. He was like, okay, I own up to it. I messed up and I got to just figure out how to make it right? He could have turned around and been like, well, F Reebok. He's very self-aware, which is what I think is really, really cool. And for those that are reading the book, I think it sheds just this light on you can be this badass big boss, but you can also be very real and true and genuine. You don't have to be this fake person with a fake front.
So awesome book. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Yes, we've got links. Definitely. We've got links below for you guys. This is his second book. He also has a New York Times bestseller book called Hurricanes, a memoir. And he references it in here, and he just talks about hurricanes because that's what life is, right? There's always just hurricanes and things thrown your way that you're not really prepared for, but you should be prepared for. So it's definitely something that we recommend both of them pick up those copies. A little bit too much rosé right now with our links below. And we just really want to thank you guys so much for spending time with us, and especially on this particular episode where we're celebrating so much, especially Rick Ross. Just thank you for being here with us. Again, if you like what you see, hit that like button. If you did not like, double tap that like button and hit that subscribe button to show us a little bit of support. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you hustling with us. Take care, you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.